The story opens with a young girl helplessly bound to a bed. She is restrained, struggling desperately to catch her breath. The doctors argue among themselves, unsure of what action to take. Meanwhile, director Zane is informed that a new form of technology will be deployed. They explain that these new worms are capable of disrupting a demon's mind. The doctor activates the experimental method, intending to use it on the wolf girl strapped to the operating table. Zane watches with dark intent as the doctor forces the creature down her throat. Her muffled screams echo throughout the operating room as her body twists in agony. One of the doctors reports that the worm appears to be working. Zane commands them to listen carefully to what she is saying. Following the order, a doctor removes the gag from her mouth and leans closer to hear. At first, the girl seems entranced, but suddenly her eyes turn feral, and she bites the doctor. The other doctors rush in, trying to subdue her with electric batons. They are horrified to discover that their colleague is already dead. With deranged eyes, the girl lets out a cruel smile and glares back at the director in frustration. Zane orders that she be taken to a confinement cell while they decide their next move. Outside the facility, a system alert announces that a high-risk vehicle is entering the security zone. The heavily armored van pushes forward along the dangerous road, and inside, a young man sits silently. Across from him, a hate-filled monster stares him down. He furrows his brow, drawing its attention. The demon asks what kind of creature he is, since he looks disgusted by his own human form. The man simply keeps staring without a word. Offended, the demon raises his voice and shouting demands to know if he is mute. The man finally replies that he was sentenced for robbing the home of a human officer. The red demon scoffs, calling him disgraceful and accusing him of admiring human life. It mocks him as a coward who begs humans to survive while pretending to be superior. The other demons agree, insisting that demons should at least look like demons. They cast judgmental glances at the human beside them. Suddenly, the human transforms into a monster, revealing he had only been mimicking a human appearance. The red demon resumes taunting him, saying he will be sent to prison regardless, no matter how skilled he is at disguising himself. He spits on the man's shoes just to provoke him. The man looks at him coldly and says he humiliates others to boost his own ego. Noticing the tattoo on his neck, he realizes the demon was once respected in the Sacred Glory War, yet still ended up captured by humans. Insulted, the demon lunges at him shouting while the man remains completely calm. Under heavy rain, the vehicle finally arrives at the demonic concentration camp on the forbidden island of the Immortal Nation. Zane waits outside with his subordinates, smiling as the vehicle comes to a full stop. With a firm tone, he orders the prisoners to be brought out. The man from before is the last to step out. He walks steadily and takes his place in line among the others. The director questions why there are only 9 prisoners present, since the list clearly states there should be 10. One of the guards checks the vehicle and reports that another prisoner remains inside, but is unconscious. The director asks who is responsible for that. Zane casts a threatening glance and demands to know if it was him. The demon looks away, and the director turns to another, who denies it and points at the man, revealing he was the one responsible. Zane adjusts his glasses and fixes his gaze on him. He steps closer and asks for his name. The man replies that his name is Roland. Zane grins widely, baring his teeth, and remarks that Roland does not smell as bad as the others, though he dislikes troublemakers. Threatened with punishment, Roland states that he merely defended himself. Zane acknowledges that, but still drives a heavy punch into his stomach. As Roland drops to his knees, the director tells him never to argue with him again. Annoyed, Roland reveals sharp teeth and elongated ears. The guards immediately aim their weapons at him. Zane declares that from now on they are all his slaves, and anyone who disrespects him will die. For his crimes, Roland is sentenced to life imprisonment, and for the assault he will spend 7 days in solitary confinement. Roland remains silent and does not argue further. The guards order the prisoners to line up and march toward the camp. Zane smiles cruelly, promising to make them work obediently. He glances back and welcomes them to hell. Yeah, not exactly a warm reception. Roland casts one final look at his lost freedom. The guards shove them forward to move faster despite their chains. As they enter the prison, Zane calls Roland forward. A guard grabs him and drags him toward the director. Zane says he will personally escort him to the confinement cell, his favorite place in the camp. As they proceed, the other prisoners whisper that his life is over, since surviving there is nearly impossible. They arrive at an elevator. Zane orders the guards to leave and return to their duties. After pushing Roland inside, he presses the button for the 9th floor, and they ascend in silence while Roland observes quietly. He then tells the director that they are alone now so he can stop pretending. The director suddenly relaxes completely, as if releasing all tension. He smiles and tells Roland that he performed excellently and cooperated well with the Secret Intelligence Division, especially by using a staged prisoner fight to gain access to solitary confinement. Roland replies that it was merely coincidence, as he discovered the demon belonged to the extremist Sacred Glory faction, so he chose to sit in front of him, knowing the demon despised those disguised as humans. Bro basically set the trap and waited. Zane expresses admiration for Commissioner Roland and bows, apologizing for the earlier punch. Roland lifts his shirt to check his injuries, but the director is amazed by the technology used in undercover agents. A demonic core had been extracted from a captured demon and transplanted into a human body. While the director continues praising, Roland asks him to stop examining him so closely. Embarrassed, Zane apologizes and admits he cannot help himself. Roland tells him to focus on discussing the target. Even though he reviewed the files, hearing directly from the director is more important. As the elevator rises, Zane explains that the demon was sent by the secret division, but information is scarce, only that it is extremely violent. Roland is surprised to hear that as they reach the 9th floor. Before stepping out, Zane tells him he is impressive and hopes he succeeds. The doors open and the guards greet the director. Demons howl as they pass by the cells. For thousands of years, humans and demons have been locked in constant war, each side seeking the other's destruction. Both factions have sent spies to infiltrate enemy territory. As he walks, the demons in solitary confinement roar from their cells. He recalls his training in the Special Intelligence Division and how he was forced into it. They promised that if he succeeded, he would regain his freedom and be reunited with his family. That is why he is willing to do whatever it takes. They arrive at cell 621. Zane says he hopes Roland survives the 7 days. He unlocks the gate, and a terrifying presence begins to seep out. Yow, that aura is not exactly welcoming. Even so, Roland remains resolute. He needs to earn the target's trust. No one truly knows how humans and demons became sworn enemies. Demons wield immense power through their cores and nearly wiped out humanity until a great sage appeared and saved them. Since then, humans have grown stronger and established the martial nation. The war continues to this day, leaving countless dead in its wake. Roland wonders if he will be the next sacrifice. He stands before the woman, his assigned target. She watches him with suspicion. She looks delicate, yet she is incredibly dangerous. He recalls the moment he was given this mission. His superior emphasized its importance. He must gain her trust and infiltrate the inner ranks of the demons. 3 months earlier, Bailing had infiltrated the human nation and assassinated a diplomat. She belongs to the Demon Fox clan and holds a high rank. She is extremely powerful and killed many before being captured. Because of that, she was classified as a high-level threat. His leader ordered him to follow the plan for the sake of the nation. However, Roland does not care about the nation. He only wants to see his family again. Inside the cell, Zane steps in while covering his nose due to the stench. Roland realizes this is no ordinary prison. The director smiles and reveals that this place is actually a testing facility for demons, which visibly shocks Roland, as he had no idea humans were conducting experiments on them. Furious, Bailing swears that everything humans have done to them will be repaid in ways they cannot even imagine. Zone shows no fear and simply advises her to obey orders. After all, no one can challenge him. To prove it, he grabs the restraint bar and forces it upward, causing her such pain that she screams. Roland watches as Zone draws his baton and strikes the girl, displaying his cruelty. He yanks her hair and orders her to entertain him, staring at her body while commenting on how pale and soft it looks. Curious, he wonders what she looks like in her true form and whether she has a tail, pulling her hair even harder as if testing her limits. Roland really forgot basic human decency. At that moment, Roland steps forward and grabs his hand to stop him. With a defiant gaze, he calls the warden uncivilized for treating demons so degradingly. Zone asks if he is threatening him. Roland clarifies that he simply does not want unnecessary trouble, reminding him to keep distance from demon prisoners. He adds that high-ranking capital officials would not tolerate a guard who toys with prisoners like that. Zane admits he is right and that he crossed the line carelessly. The authorities are always strict about such matters, and if they found out, his career would be over. He glances at Roland, realizing the young man just saved him. The special commissioner is wise beyond his years and has a promising future. Meanwhile, Bailing silently observes as the warden agrees with the new prisoner. Zane says he is still irritated at being defied. Roland offers to take the punishment in her place. The warden's face immediately lights up. Without warning, he swings the baton at Roland. Roland is thrown to the ground by the heavy blow. Zane orders them to beat him without mercy. The guards kick and strike him relentlessly as he tries to shield himself. Bailing watches the violence unfold without showing any emotion. One of the guards raises the baton and brings it down with full force. The impact knocks him unconscious, and the guards finally leave the cell. As they walk down the corridor, Zane warns them to keep an eye on Roland, since he once escaped from the northern prison. Back in the cell, Roland lies motionless. Bailing tries to wake him, wondering if he is still alive. She keeps calling out to him, but he remains unconscious. With a horrified expression, she wonders if he was beaten to death, as she does not want to owe a stranger. She tries to reach him and shake him, but Roland does not respond. In his dream, someone calls his name. A bright light appears around him. A woman stands before him, saying he has been chosen as a secret agent for a special mission, and has no choice but to accept. If he succeeds, he will be given a new life, and his crimes will be erased. Someone calls him from behind, and he is shocked to see his sister Shoalmeng. The girl smiles and says it is her birthday, and she wants a chocolate cake. However, a monstrous hand stretches toward her. Afraid she will be hurt, he shouts for her to be careful. The woman from before smiles maliciously, reminding him that he must complete the mission or his family will not survive. Enraged, he tries to attack her. Roland suddenly wakes up in shock and Bailing steps back. He looks at her and realizes he is in an awkward position. Embarrassed, he quickly looks away, his face turning red. She remarks that he had a nightmare. He agrees, saying it was far from pleasant and that no one in that prison would have good dreams anyway. Since he took a beating for her, he demands that she introduce herself. Bailing scoffs, saying she never asked for his help. Seeing her rude attitude, he calls her ungrateful, but before he can finish, she introduces herself and asks for his name. He replies that he is nobody important. She asks if he really escaped from prison. He confirms, explaining that he fled from Green Island prison in the north, but was captured again. She is surprised he managed to escape a maximum security prison and asks how he did it. He narrows his eyes and accuses her of trying to report him to the warden. Offended, she denies it, saying she would never side with humans. After learning she comes from a respected fox clan, he wonders why she was captured. Annoyed, she insists that many died to capture her and that she would have burned everything down if not for the restraints. Sensing her killing intent, he tries to calm her and asks whether placing male and female demons together has any meaning. She doubts it, saying that in the eyes of humans they are nothing more than animals kept in captivity. She is certain Green Island prison is no different. He agrees, but comments that there was no one as beautiful as her there. Trying to impress her, he asks her to look closely at him. She complies and is shocked when he breaks his shackles in a single motion. She demands to know how he did it, since the restraints were designed to suppress demonic power. He confirms that he did not use his demon core and shows her a lock-picking tool. Seeing her confusion, he explains that he invented the tool, which can also be used to clean ears. She is amazed that something so small can open restraints meant to hold demons. He explains that the mechanism is not as complicated as it seems, and that the ones from Green Island are far more advanced. He remarks that he has spent his entire life as a thief, so this is nothing new to him. Gushi looks away and calls him arrogant. She asks how he managed to bring the tool inside the prison, especially since there are scanners. He demonstrates the trick and tells her not to blink. With a swift motion, he hides the tool, showing the speed of his hands. Impressed, she asks where he hid it. Instead of answering, he raises his hand and moves closer to her. She warns him, but it is already too late, as he has touched her hair. To her surprise, he pulls the tool out from her hair and asks how she managed to hide it there. He explains that he distracted her and tossed the tool toward her. She realizes that is how he brought it inside, hiding it on a guard before passing the scanner. After clearing security, he simply retrieved it. Since he was not sure whether the guards would be searched, he decided to plant it on the warden instead. She narrows her eyes and asks what the next step is. He smiles and says his priority is escaping the prison. She asks if he knows a way out. He assures her he will find one because he cannot stay there being used for experiments. If he has to die, it will be while escaping and as a free man. She asks if he already has a plan. He confirms that he does, but needs outside help and asks if she can arrange it. She offers to help, but he seems doubtful, offended. She says he does not understand the weight of her title and tells him to release her so she can show her true power. As he watches her in silence, he thinks he knows exactly what she is capable of. The moment he frees her, she will most likely kill him. When he does not move, she repeats that he should let her go. Despite the risk, he has no choice if he wants to complete the mission. Meanwhile, in his office, Zane speaks with his superior over the phone. He assures him that the spy has already been placed inside the prison. He promises to complete the mission without issues and ends the call, clasping his hands together. He plans to work alongside Roland until the very end. Back in the prison, Roland steps back after freeing Bailing from her restraints. With her fangs revealed, she looks terrifying in her transformed state. Her presence rivals that of the woman from the Secret Intelligence Division whom he despises. Thrilled by her freedom, she sways her tail and scans the entire cell. Roland stays still, observing her, as she appears completely out of control. Even with all the planning from his division, she remains an unpredictable factor, and he must be cautious. Like a wild beast, she shouts that the scent of freedom excites her. He recalls that she has always fought on the front lines, and that her strength is nearly unmatched. Even so, he must earn her trust, or the Secret Intelligence Division will not spare him or his family. Everything he values is at stake, so failure is not an option. Determined, he reminds himself that everything must remain under control. Suddenly, she turns toward him, and he takes a deep breath. She pins him to the ground and drags her sharp claws across his chest. She asks who he is and which clan he belongs to. Terrified, he transforms into a demonic wolf. He reveals that he comes from the Northwestern Wolf Clan, and that he learned lockpicking from a human craftsman. She mocks him, saying he could be lying. She feels his heart racing, but then remembers her desire for revenge, realizing that talking to him almost made her forget it. Seeing his confusion, she explains that she intends to go after the warden for treating her like a pet. In disbelief, he says that should not be their priority. She looks at him suspiciously as he insists they must escape first and plan revenge later. She thinks for a moment and agrees, as she can no longer endure staying there. She stands up and asks how they will get out. He reveals that the plan involves the warden, which immediately sparks her interest. He points toward the pipes inside the cell. Confused, she asks how that would help. He explains that there are pipelines leading outside, and they plan to escape through them. She does not understand, since they are too narrow. He replies that there are larger pipes he saw when he was captured. When she asks how they will obtain a structural map, he says they need to access the warden's office and take him hostage. After that, they will retrieve the blueprints and use the warden as cover during the escape. He emphasizes that his only concern is whether she can defeat him. She confidently says it will be easy and even promises to kill Zane. So the only remaining issue is gaining the warden's trust and getting close to him. They need a reason to make him come to them. Hearing this, she offers to lure him in, since she knows he will not resist. After discussing it, he tries to convince her to put the restraints back on to maintain the plan. She refuses, since she has just been freed. After a while, she agrees and extends her hands. He shackles her again and says the plan has begun. Turning his back to her, he feels satisfied that everything is going according to plan. Determined, he shouts for help, claiming there is an urgent situation. A guard grows irritated by the noise from the monsters. Roland becomes animated when he sees them and says he has something important to report. Annoyed by the disturbance, the guard opens the cell to punish him, gripping his baton tightly, ready to strike. Roland denies the accusation, but instead of listening, the guard raises his weapon and swings it toward him with a grin. Bailing tells the guard that it was her. As Roland intercepts the attack, she declares that she is willing to trade information for her freedom and reveal the location of her clan's intelligence headquarters. Roland smiles as the guard is left stunned. Later, they finally enter Zion's office. The man is clearly pleased that she has finally agreed to provide information. He eagerly asks her to speak, anticipating valuable intel. She pauses, while Roland thinks that no matter what she says, the warden will cooperate with the plan. He smirks slightly as he mentally reviews the strategy. However, she suddenly begins murmuring nonsense and calculating something. Looking outside, she whispers that she just came up with a new plan. He is completely shocked when she suggests abandoning the original plan and jumping out the window. He looks at the window and wonders if she is actually serious. Concerned, he questions whether it is safe to trust her, since she seems impulsive. The escape route had already been carefully planned by the Secret Intelligence Division. Going against the evil queen's plan would be extremely risky. If she suspects betrayal, his family will be in grave danger. On top of that, the raging sea below could tear them apart, as the waters are unforgiving. He steps closer and asks why she changed the plan. Suddenly, he recalls the original strategy of capturing the warden, obtaining the blueprint, and escaping through the water channel. She argues that the goal is to escape, and jumping out the window does not change that. He agrees. He says they could die from the impact, making it far too dangerous. She insists that he just needs to trust her and that nothing will go wrong. He refuses to entrust his life to someone he has only just met. She stares straight at him and says he can simply stay behind. Since he knows how to pick locks, maybe he can escape on his own. He refuses to remain because he would be labeled an accomplice and executed. With no other option, he agrees to her plan. Zion notices them whispering and scolds them. He warns them not to try anything suspicious or they will be punished harshly. Locking his gaze onto Roland, he reminds him that their family's safety is on the line. He wonders if the evil queen ordered that message to be delivered. Tense, he clenches his fist, worried about his family. The warden tells her to speak and says that if the information is valuable, he will grant her freedom. She glances back, observing the guards. He follows her every movement, still uncertain about what to do. She prepares to reveal the information, but since it is highly confidential, she says she can only speak in private with him. Interested, he steps closer, already imagining in his mind the plan where he gets captured. After that, they would retrieve the blueprints and escape through the drainage system. However, he realizes that the demon would definitely kill him afterward. Just by looking at her face, he understands she intends to eliminate him. Meanwhile, Roland tries to warn the warden that the demon is attempting to escape through the window. They need to make her follow the original plan. Zane notices that Roland is trying to alert him about the window behind him. As thunder continues to roar in the sky, he interprets it as Roland telling him to let them escape through the window. That way he would not be captured or placed in danger. He feels emotional, thinking he will be forever grateful to the commissioner. Roland wonders if his message was understood. The warden suddenly stops, provoking tension. She calls him a coward. When he stops approaching, Zane bursts out laughing, offended. She asks what he finds so amusing. He calls her pathetic, saying he will not fall for her tricks. He does not believe she would reveal all her secrets so easily after enduring so much in the facility. Both of them are surprised by this, especially Roland, who cannot understand why the warden did not follow the plan. The warden smirks, noticing their shock. He comments that they are trying to steal the blueprint and escape through the tunnels. However, the blueprint is locked in his safe, and he has already figured out their plan. She calls him a fool and says he has made 2 fatal mistakes, catching him off guard. He warns her not to speak to him so rudely, since he still has the advantage. However, in Bailing's eyes, he is the one who should be careful. She admits she wants the blueprint, but points out that she is currently restrained. Zane agrees and asks how she plans to get it. He realizes she knows how to pick locks as she breaks free from her restraints. Right after that, she lunges at him, but he barely dodges. He is shocked to see that she actually freed herself, a smirk forming on her face. She says he should not have locked her up with Roland. The spy feels conflicted about what to do. Caught in a difficult situation, Zane realizes that he knows how to pick locks. That is how he escaped from Green Island prison. However, that no longer matters. Zane pulls out his communication device and orders the defense team to come to his office and initiate Level A lockdown. He smiles, thinking he has forced them to jump out the window out of desperation. The defense team arrives. Zane orders them to fire at the 2 demons. In a swift motion, Bailing rushes to Roland's side, shielding him from the barrage of bullets. With no escape route left, they have no choice but to jump through the window. She asks if he has a better idea. He curses the warden in his mind and swears he will come back from the grave to kill him. Zane declares that he will not make their escape easy. Channeling his power, electric currents surge through his hand, forming a powerful blade. The 2 prisoners are shocked, especially Bailing, who realizes he can use the 3rd level of the matter transformation realm. Yeah, this guy is not just a random boss. With that, he refuses to let them escape. Roland looks at his partner and asks if she can handle him. She insists that fighting will only slow them down, so they need to head straight for the window. She looks outside and tells him to follow her. They sprint toward the window. Zane thinks everything is going exactly as planned. They leap out as Zane's weapon flies toward them. Roland barely manages to dodge. Zane attacks again, forcing Roland to retreat. Bailing looks at him but does not move to save him. He cannot believe she is going to leave him behind. She shatters the window and stands on the edge. The warden laughs, saying their alliance is weak. That way Roland will be the first to fall. As Zane charges at him, Roland remains frozen, stunned by everything happening. Just before he can hit the ground, Bailing intercepts him with her tail, grabbing his legs and suspending him in the air. She looks down at the raging sea beneath the facility. Roland panics and begs her to reconsider, but she has already decided and jumps into the abyss. Roland screams as they fall. Zane watches their escape. He feels a hint of pity seeing Roland scream, and remembers the order he received earlier. He was supposed to seriously injure him during the escape to eliminate any suspicion from the enemy. Gripping his weapon again, he asks Roland for forgiveness. Everything must go according to plan. As Roland continues falling, Zane takes aim and throws his weapon, trying to wound him further. The blade pierces Roland, and Bailing shouts his name. They keep falling, and Roland questions why the target would do this. The weapon transforms and returns to Zane. The warden apologizes once more, saying he was only following orders. On the verge of death, Roland begs Bailing not to let him die. She assures him that will not happen, and cushions their fall, wrapping both of them with her tail before hitting the water. As they plunge into the depths, Zane orders the maritime patrol to capture the fugitives. Cointreau searches the dark waters but finds nothing. The guards doubt they will be able to locate them, as it feels like searching for a needle in a haystack. Besides, they may have already drowned. Suddenly, one of the guards seems to notice something approaching the ship. As it gets closer, they alert everyone and turn on the floodlights. To their shock, Bailing, still coiled in her tail, bursts out of the sea and crashes into the ship. The scene is so absurd that everyone freezes. Yeah, they were not ready for round 2. She uncoils, revealing herself while holding the injured Roland in her arms. With fury in her eyes, she lands on the deck as the guards open fire. She uses her tail as a shield and counterattacks, brutally taking them down. One by one, the guards fall. As the ship continues moving, Bailing creates chaos as a distraction. One of the remaining crew members begs for his life. With a threatening stare, she asks if he knows how to pilot the ship. He immediately says yes. She orders him to steer the ship to Sector 3 and maintain communication with the base. He agrees and promises to obey. She then carefully lays Roland's unconscious body on the ground. Even while unconscious, he writhes in pain. She says that now they are safe. She requests a medical kit, and one of the crew members volunteers to go fetch it. Later on, the vessel continues its route while Roland rests after receiving treatment. Bailing watches over him, her expression unreadable. Meanwhile, Roland's face tightens as his mind drifts back into the past. In his dream, children laugh and play without a care. Emma shows off how fast her toy spins. He tells her to be careful. Zuming walks up and demands a gift, reminding him that her birthday is the next day. He promises to buy her a cake. Zheng beams with joy and asks for a chocolate one. He confirms that's exactly what he'll get, but her tone suddenly shifts. When she questions him about his mission, he freezes and looks at his sister. Chia Mengen's face turns bloodied, revealing the consequences awaiting him if he fails. Terrified, Roland steps back. The other children appear as well, all injured. His body trembles in fear. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice. When he turns around, he sees Vu Lion, the head of the espionage department. He spits at her, demanding she honor her promise to protect his family. She coldly replies that he has no right to negotiate and should feel grateful for being chosen. She assures him he will be rewarded once the mission is complete. He insists that all he wants is his family's safety. She strikes him, and he responds with anger. Seeing this, Mu Yan steps in. She throws him to the ground. She approaches and orders him to address her as Lady Mu Yan, demanding proper respect. She declares that he is nothing more than a dog, and if he disobeys again, he will be killed. Roland shouts and slowly wakes up, scanning his surroundings on the ship. Unable to move properly, he still believes he might be dreaming. He recalls the past and vows to take revenge on Lu Yan. Bailing notices that he has regained consciousness. Realizing it isn't a dream, he tries to sit up and check his wound. Fortunately, the Wolf Clan possesses natural regeneration, which has aided his recovery. He asks if they are on a ship. She explains that after he passed out, she seized control of a patrol vessel. He realizes they are aboard a human ship and that Bailing eliminated everyone on board. Seeing the bodies, he asks where they are headed. Suddenly, a crew member shouts that they've struck something. Before they can react, the ship tilts sharply, throwing everyone off balance. He wonders if enemies are chasing them, but Bailing assures him that isn't the case. They have finally reached their destination. Noticing his confusion, she explains they are in the dark sea of the Demon Nation. Looking out at the ocean, Roland remarks that it is truly terrifying to behold. He notes that the chaotic storm prevents humans from launching successful attacks. She agrees, saying the southern region of the Demon Nation would have already fallen without it. The ship continues to sway violently, and he warns that going further could cause it to capsize. She assures him that won't happen. Then she begins chanting something incomprehensible. The dangerous sea responds to her voice. In the distance, a merman hears her call and swims through the waters alongside other aquatic creatures to answer it. They climb onto the ship, putting Roland on high alert. He is stunned to see deep-sea explorers standing on the deck. The crew panics, especially when one of the creatures orders someone to leave the deck. Roland asks if she summoned them, and she confirms. One of them demands to know her identity, as she knows the secret transmission signal. She reveals that she is Razan of the Fox clan, and offers rewards if they help her return to the Cold City. The creature is shocked upon hearing her identity. Sensing their hesitation, she releases her power to prove who she is. They finally recognize her and bow in respect. She orders them to escort her to the Cold City and forbids them from leaving her side, as her return must remain secret. The merman agrees. Meanwhile, in the Cold City, an assistant informs his master that Bailing has successfully returned. The master is surprised she managed to escape and worries she may cause trouble. The assistant suggests taking action immediately, but the master says it is still too soon and prefers to observe. At the Cold City port, the mermen escort Bailing and Roland. The creature wishes them luck and departs. Bailing says she will speak with the defense governor to secure him a commander position. Roland is amazed by the city's prosperity. Bailing explains that it lies near the Black Sea and serves as a key defensive stronghold, being one of the 3 capitals of the demon nation. When he asks where they are going, she replies that they are heading home. At that moment, several luxury cars pull up in front of them. Bailing is surprised by the reception, while Roland is impressed by her status. From one of the cars steps out a woman with a glowing horn, and Roland feels embarrassed for finding her attractive. Yep, bro picked the worst time to notice that. The woman Jew bows to Bailing and says she is relieved to see her safe, adding that the great ancestor is waiting for her. Bailing becomes emotional and begins to cry. Ju says the great ancestor has been thinking about her this entire time. Noticing Roland, Ju asks who he is. Bailing explains that he helped her escape from prison. Ju thanks him, and Roland responds that it was nothing. Bailing says they need to go, and Ju opens the car door. Inside the car, an awkward silence fills the space. He then glances at her. Noticing this, Marine tells him to ask whatever he wants. He asks to be dropped off somewhere, as he does not want to get involved with influential figures. Confused, she asks why he refuses a reward. She says her family could change his life. He asks who her family is. She reveals that the Cold City was once called Kingkill City, in honor of her Fox clan. Her ancestor is the great nine-tailed Fox King, who was defeated by the Demon King. To restrain the clan's power, the king relocated them, but they still remained at the top. Roland admits he doesn't know much about the demon world, as he grew up in the human realm. She asks again if he is refusing the reward, and he confirms. For the 3rd time, he turns it down. Annoyed, she agrees but insists that he meet her ancestor first. He says he is willing to take money, but she cuts him off, saying what she really needs is peace of mind. They continue in silence until they reach the Fox clan's mansion. Upon arrival, Bailing announces herself. The guards are delighted. One of them rushes off to inform the great ancestor. Inside, Kill Lin Yon, the head butler, scolds the guard for making noise. The guard explains that Bailing has returned. Lin Yon orders the message to be passed along, but insists there should be no commotion. As punishment, he tells the guard to slap himself 60 times. The guard begs for mercy, and Bailing says they were only happy to see her. Lin Yon greets her and tells her to go meet the great ancestor. Roland senses that Lin Yon does not like her. Lin Yon fixes his gaze on Roland. Marian tries to intervene in the punishment, but Lin Yon says it is his responsibility. Ju threatens him, but Lin Yon reminds her she is merely a servant. Bailing grows irritated, struggling to hold herself back. Lin Yon smiles in a way that reeks of frustration. At that moment, Roland kicks Lin Yon hard in the face. Everyone is stunned. Roland scolds him for disrespecting his lady. Lin Yon demands to know who he is. Roland replies that he got what he deserved. Bailing explains that he helped her escape. Lurian tells the guard to leave. The guard expresses his gratitude. Lurian urges Bailing once again to go see the ancestor. She heads there. As she passes by Lurian, Roland stares him down until Lurian returns the look with disdain. Lurian thinks to himself that they will meet again. Meanwhile, the great ancestor Dan is seated on her throne and asks about Bailing. A servant says she is on her way. Another announces her arrival. Dan immediately stands up. Bailing enters and begins to cry upon seeing her. Dan holds her face and notices how much weight she has lost. Marian apologizes for worrying her and says everything is fine. Dan smiles in relief, then looks at Roland and asks who he is. Bailing introduces him and says he helped her escape. Dan smiles and asks how they managed to flee. Meanwhile, Lurian goes to the leader's hall and reports that Bailing has returned with a stranger named Roland, who supposedly helped her escape. The master is Lu, who wears a threatening expression and is right there. Luzin asks if he will meet Bailing, but he refuses. He orders that Roland be rewarded while writing something on his scroll. Dan is impressed to learn they jumped from a high window to escape. Bailing replies that it was easy and that humans are no match for her. Dan jokingly comments that she is quite bold and praises Roland for his impressive lock-picking skills. He thanks her for the compliment. When asked which clan he comes from, he answers that he belongs to the Grey Wolf clan, an unremarkable lineage. She then asks how he ended up imprisoned. He realizes she is probing into his past, tries to be cautious and explains that when he was young, his village suffered a severe drought. To survive, he infiltrated the mortal martial nation. He later learned how to pick locks and began living as a thief. Eventually, he was caught stealing from an important figure's home and sent to Green Island prison, and now he has been released. The old woman feels sympathy for him, as life in the human world was not easy. Since he saved Bailing, she asks what reward he desires. Bailing interrupts and reveals that she already offered him a reward, but he refused as if her family were something he needed to avoid. Frustrated, she asks why. He tries to explain that Bailing also kept him alive during their escape, so there is no need for repayment. Mering gives him a strange look while the ancestor comments that he has developed human traits. Even so, she cannot let him leave without showing gratitude. At that moment, Leon arrives and reports that the family head will not come, as he is dealing with urgent matters. Bailing frowns, trying to hide her reaction. Roland notices that her relationship with her father is quite strained. Dan remarks that the leader could have simply said he did not want to come instead of making excuses. Rian insists he is truly busy with something urgent. She replies that she also does not wish to see him, but needs to consult him regarding Roland's reward. Jian says he has already met the young man. With that, she asks him to inquire what reward would be appropriate. Rian responds that he has already received an order. Roland will be appointed captain of the Rosem Street operation to gain experience. Upon hearing the name, Bailing is alarmed. It is a lawless area, and the previous captain died mysteriously. This is basically sending Roland to his death. Yeah, definitely not a promotion you celebrate. She asks Dan to take him into the army with her, but Dan explains they do not have enough influence there. Besides, Roland comes from a different background and needs to better understand his past. Roland finally speaks, telling them not to argue because of him. He emphasizes that he does not need any reward from the family. Irritated, Barian insists he accept her goodwill. He assures her he is fine and does not believe he deserves a reward. He also explains that he would not handle the position well, as he knows little about the cold city. She immediately becomes upset upon hearing this. The great ancestor agrees with him, saying he still needs time to adapt, but adds that her granddaughter only likes him because she does not have many friends. Marteling denies it instantly and looks away. He smiles to himself, thinking he is slowly gaining her trust. Dan tells him to reconsider and offers for him to stay at the mansion for a while, and he accepts. As night falls, servants escort him to his room. He asks them to leave, as he is not used to being served. After unsuccessfully trying to persuade him, they depart. Once he makes sure they are gone, he prepares to bathe. He sighs after a long day and reflects that he has now entered enemy territory and must be extremely cautious, especially regarding his past. As he steps into the bath, someone knocks on the door. He gets annoyed as he only wants to rest and asks who it is. To his surprise, it is Juge. He wonders why she has come and asks for a moment to get dressed. He then opens the door and asks what she wants. She asks to come in and talk. He hesitates briefly but allows it. He watches her closely as she enters. After closing the door, he asks why she has come so late. To his surprise, she steps too close. He becomes confused and asks what she wants. Instead of answering, she moves even closer in a dangerous way. She confesses that she has been captivated by him since the moment she saw him, and offers herself to him, leaving him embarrassed and flushed. He tries to stop her from exposing herself and says she should not offer herself like that. Offended, she asks if she is not attractive enough. He replies that she does not truly admire him, as he sees no love in her eyes. He opens the door and asks her to leave. Offended, she leaves with a haughty attitude. After her pride is wounded, Jaup rushes out of the room in embarrassment. Meanwhile, Roland shuts the window and wonders if that was some kind of test. He scoffs, convinced he would not fall for cheap tricks. At the same time, Jaup thinks the young man is not swayed by beauty and seems trustworthy. Honestly, that kind of resistance? Rare drop. In truth, she even sensed a hint of disdain from him. Realizing he looked down on her, she walks away with resentment. Meanwhile, Roland attempts to connect with the demonic core within him. After establishing the link, he opens his eyes, realizing the core has merged with his meridian energy. He suspects it happened when Zane injured him. The jailer's attack may have unintentionally broken some internal restriction. He tests his theory and shifts into his wolf form. He discovers that even in this state, he can still use immortal martial techniques. This new ability grants him a demon's physique combined with the strength of immortal martial arts. He opens the window and wonders what the people at the Foundation are doing, especially Shang. He misses everyone and wishes to reunite with them. The next day, Roland is awakened by loud knocking on the door. An excited Bailing says she is taking him out. He opens the door half asleep and tries to brush her off, saying he needs more rest, but she does not buy it and drags him outside. Later, she takes him to the bustling city center, treats him at an elegant restaurant, and orders an extravagant breakfast. He thanks her but finds it excessive. She says he deserves it, as it is his first meal in his new life. They toast to his rebirth and clink their glasses. She thanks him for saving her life. While eating, he recalls that she also saved him. She adds that her gratitude also comes from him teaching Leon a lesson. Impressed, she says the kick he gave the butler was amazing. Yeah, Leon definitely felt that one in 4K. Curious, he asks why the servant treats her so poorly. She hesitates before answering, and her mood shifts. The waiter brings more food and serves a special soup. Roland comments that it smells good. He excitedly lifts the lid, but is shocked to see a demonic eye inside. The soup nearly slips from his hand. Bailing asks if he is all right. He says yes, claiming it was just a tremor, then politely asks to use the restroom, and the waiter offers to guide him. He realizes the secret intelligence division is everywhere, even as they try to infiltrate the men's restroom, and the waiter tells him to go to the second stall. He greets him, saying it is a pleasure to meet the special agent. He closes the door and places a maintenance sign. Roland approaches the stall, wonders what is inside, grabs the handle and opens it, but it is empty. Stepping further in, he finds a strange red telephone hanging on the wall. The phone rings and he answers. On the other end, he hears Muyen's voice asking how he is and congratulating him on successfully infiltrating the demon realm. Annoyed by her tone, he asks if she is congratulating him for almost dying on the mission. She tells him not to be so aggressive. He questions whether the plan included trying to kill him. She replies that it was a necessary step to gain the Wolf Clan's trust. With that, he asks what the next step is. She answers that he only needs to survive as a spy, climb the ranks of the demon race, and infiltrate their inner core. He thinks that is too much, as it means spending more time in the demon realm. The leader reminds him that he is at her mercy, so he should do his best. Irritated, he curses under his breath. He finally leaves the restroom, and the servant informs him that Bailing is still waiting for him. Roland asks if many of them are infiltrated in Cold City. The servant does not answer but says he can come to them anytime if he needs help. He returns to the table and apologizes to Bailing for making her wait. He runs his hand through his hair in a charming way, and Bailing is quite surprised by his behavior. He needs to climb the ranks quickly and requires a better plan. Changing his approach, he asks her to take him to see Cold City. Later, the two walk through the city streets. She glances at him and asks if they are just wandering aimlessly. He replies that he wants to see Rakshim Street. She becomes confused about why and thinks he might be considering accepting the offer. He denies it, saying he is just curious about the place. She lets it go and agrees to guide him through Rakshim Street. Rakshim Street is filled with homeless demons. A scruffy young demon named Shang is seen walking through the streets. Elsewhere, a manager from a pharmaceutical group named Ella announces that those who need to buy medicine should form a line. The demons simply stare at him until he declares they may begin lining up. Shang pushes through the crowd and offers his money to buy medicine. Long praises him for being the first customer and asks what medicine he needs. The poor boy says he needs antibiotics for his mother, who has malaria. The man says he has them, but they cost 500 per dose. Shang does not have that much money and asks to pay in installments. Long steps back and says they are not a charity, telling him to return when he has the money. Shang begs for a lower price to save his mother, but Long remains cold and says his mother is nothing special. He returns to the platform and asks if anyone else needs medicine. The crowd begins to comment that they cannot afford it because the prices are too high. With that, they start to disperse. Long calls them rude and miserable. A Rosen patrol officer, Matian, intervenes and tells him not to get upset. The people of Rosen prefer the black market because it is cheaper. Hearing this, Long asks why the black market has not been shut down yet. Matian corrects him, saying he is not captain yet but vice captain. Long is confused, as he should have been promoted after the captain's death. Matian explains that the King Keel clan interfered and took the position. Long wonders what the Fox clan is planning. Matian points out that although Rosem is lawless, it represents 60% of Cold City's population, and the underground economy thrives there. Long agrees, saying that is why his company needs to establish itself there. If they monopolize the medicine supply, they will gain great power. However, Matian reminds him that Riem's medicine sellers will not be easy to deal with. Long smiles and says to leave it to him, asking him to work with the department director Hyson, who has always wanted a share of the pharmaceutical business. He agrees but demands that they completely stop the sale of counterfeit medicines on Rokim Street. Matian agrees to pass along the message. Meanwhile, Shang is heading home when a man asks if he needs medicine. After hearing that he saw the pharmacy's opening, Shang says the prices are too high. The suspicious man asks if he has ever heard of generic medicine. Since the boy does not know, he scolds him for being ignorant. He explains that they are cheaper imitations, but just as effective. Shang says he needs medicine for malaria, and shows the money he has, but it is still not enough. Falling to his knees, he begs, saying his mother needs to survive. The man sees an opportunity and says he will sell it for what he has, but asks for help in return. Naive, the boy asks what he must do, and the man says he will become an apprentice helping distribute the medicine. He does not fully understand what that means. At the same time, Roland and Bailing walk silently through the city. He watches the miserable streets, sees a woman walking while clutching her bag tightly, and a man smiling as he follows her. He already knows what is about to happen. As expected, the thief snatches the bag and runs. The woman cries out for help, but no one responds. Police officers are standing in a corner, chatting about a card game. She runs to them and reports the crime, but they tell her to file it with a department. When she insists, they grow irritated and say they are just following procedure. They even threaten her with arrest, and frightened, she leaves in tears. Roland observes everything, and Bailing asks what he thinks. That moment opens his eyes. Meanwhile, an illegal transaction involving counterfeit medicine takes place. The man hands the money to Shang, telling him to find him again if needed. The boy is happy as he has already made 8 sales that day. If things continue like this, he will be able to pay for his mother's treatment. Meanwhile, the buyer's vehicle is filled with men in suits, who confirm the purchase and inform the captain to proceed with the arrest. Shang continues selling openly in the middle of the street, even offering some to Roland. The officer is surprised by the boldness and asks if the products are fake. The boy insists they are cheaper and effective. Bailing smiles, saying the black market is out of control. She shows that she is very familiar with such dealings. No pharmacy had ever established itself there before, but now a company has managed to do so. Naturally, her family wants a share of the profits and intends to supervise as the city's founders. If he ends up there, he will join the force representing her family. While he thinks, a van suddenly appears and stops in front of them. Everyone looks confused, including Shang. Suddenly the door opens and several officers jump out. They rush at the boy, cornering him as he screams in fear. Without hesitation, one officer strikes him in the face with a baton, knocking him to the ground. His face turns red as he cries out, but the man already lifts him by the hair. As he cries and struggles, Roland asks who those violent men are. Bailing answers that it is the Rostam patrol, even more brutal than the guards from the human realm prison, and that their leader is about to arrive. A black car speeds in, and the two watch as someone opens the door to receive the captain. Mason, vice captain of the first squad of the patrol department, steps out. Kor praises Matinern, saying the captain's plan helped capture the culprit, and is sternly reminded that he is the vice, not the captain. Even so, the officer insists he is the only one he recognizes as leader. The older man glares at first, but then smiles, unable to hide his satisfaction. Even so, he is far too insignificant for Bailing to even know him. The vice captain walks over to Shang, who is still being held by the hair, and asks if he is the target. Looking up weakly, he asks why he is being arrested. Matinern lifts the silver package of illegal medicine, confirming that he was the one selling it. He is given a chance to explain after being caught red-handed. Seeing Kor, he realizes it was a setup and tries to argue, but is told that selling low-quality products can lead to immediate execution. Yeah, talk about zero return policy. Tears keep falling as he insists the medicine works. By doing so, he essentially admits to owning the counterfeit goods. Products without an official seal are considered a danger to public health. With that, Matinian turns away and orders the officers to take the boy. It is over. Now that the boy is in patrol custody, he will surely be beaten to death. That blunt statement makes Roland turn to look at the child still desperately trying to break free. Crying, he promises he will not sell anything again and begs to be released. Unfortunately, there is no room for regret in that cruel world. Shang just wants to live, knowing his mother is still waiting for him at home. Roland watches closely as he begs for his life, remembering that other children once pleaded to be saved as well. The memory hits him hard, and trembling with emotion, unable to hold back, he surprises Bailing and steps forward, placing himself between the vice captain and the vehicle. Matinian raises an eyebrow at the challenger. He bows slightly, saying the boy is his friend, and politely asks for mercy. Unfortunately, the vice captain has no patience for that and asks why he should grant a favor to a stranger. Roland smiles and turns to Bailing, asking if the previous offer still stands. She confirms it. Satisfied, the young man asks the vice captain to listen carefully to his words. He requests the favor as the captain of the first squad of the patrol department. The bold and unexpected declaration shocks all the officers. Staring at Matien with confidence, Roland reminds him that he is the vice captain and adds that he could be his direct superior. Kor whispers, questioning whether the stranger's words are true, but his doubt is enough to earn a deadly glare from his leader. The veteran narrows his eyes, calculating the chances that the boy is truly the captain. At that moment, he notices Bailing from the corner of his eye, and the presence of someone from the Kink family could confirm it. Joining his hands politely, he asks the girl if she belongs to the noble family. She replies coldly, questioning whether he is worthy of speaking to her. Her words silence him, and he only speaks again when she asks if he has official documentation for the operation. He answers that they are responding to reports of illegal medicine sales. She says that this street has always had such activity and questions why they are suddenly so focused on cracking down. The vice captain explains that there had never been a proper pharmacy, as no one wanted to establish one there since the Great Fire 50 years ago. Because of that, the department had been tolerant and never banned the smuggling. Now the situation has changed. The Nine-Headed Bird Pharmaceutical Corporation has opened a branch in Rim, and with legitimate medicine now available, illegal vendors can no longer be allowed. Looking at Shang, he states that criminals like him can be sentenced to death, and that he is merely following regulations. But Shang has no intention of giving any consideration to the new captain, as his subordinates also follow official rules. Roland asks what would happen if he used his authority to act as he pleased, but that will not be possible since no one has been informed of his appointment. Once he officially takes the position, the vice captain says he will be the first to congratulate him. Holding his ground, Matien orders them to take the boy away. The men comply and shove Shang into the van. Despite his desperate pleas, Bailing moves ready to step in, but Roland reassures her and asks her not to interfere. She is surprised that he is allowing this to happen. He explains that situations like this will happen many times and that he cannot simply rely on her family. For now, the two let the officers leave. The important part is that he has already introduced himself and made an impression. Matien must be uneasy, and considering he dared to confront Bailing, his backer is likely not aligned with her family. Now he intends to deal with them little by little. Back at the Kinky family residence, Roland stands beside Bailing wearing a patrol uniform. Dan encourages him to be careful and use the chaos to build his reputation. After thanking the ancestor for her support and guidance, he is reminded to return often and consider the mansion his home. With that, he is ready to begin his new journey. Meanwhile, Lion stands outside Luan's room, asking if he wants to meet the newcomer before his departure. The clan leader has no interest in someone who has yet to make an impact, but says he may reconsider if the boy proves his worth. Outside the family gates, Bailing is surprised to see that he is truly leaving. She admits feeling a certain admiration. Roland says that in such a populated place there must be good people. Fortunately, she has already arranged someone to assist him. He asks who it is, but she simply says he will find out when he arrives at the station. He is soon seated in silence at the patrol department headquarters. After a long wait, the newcomer is finally called in to meet the chief. Standing straight, he introduces himself. Uji studies him carefully and praises his posture. While reviewing his record, he notices there is little information, since Roland lived in the mortal martial nation. The chief mentions that he supposedly saved the young lady from the Kenkill family, but Roland responds modestly and denies it vaguely. Roland is told not to be nervous, as the chief has ties with the family. When asked about firearms, he admits he has no experience but promises to train. With that, he is officially appointed captain of the first squad and instructed to remain courteous. Riem, despite being under Cold City, has a high level of autonomy. The environment is complicated, so he must be cautious and adapt well. The chief expects a lot from him today, but warns that he will not hesitate to act if necessary. Everything is settled, and a subordinate is waiting outside to guide him to the squad. As he opens the door, Roland hears a familiar voice and is surprised to see who is waiting. Ju smiles and introduces herself as his subordinate. Roland frowns, as she was supposed to remain by Bailing's side as a servant. To his surprise, she says she was born and raised in Rosem, so she knows the area well. Offering to show him around, she explains that her older brother was an officer when she was a child. He begins to ask something, but she already knows he wants to understand why she became a servant. After all, working in the force seemed profitable. The light in her eyes fades for a moment, and she says she already considers her brother dead. He did not expect such a heavy answer, and seeing her fall silent, he thinks he said something wrong. But that is not the case. If he had not mentioned her brother, she might have almost forgotten him. Roland offers to treat her to a meal and encourages her to reconnect. Unfortunately, her brother disappeared during a mission years ago. He understands her pain, as he also went through something similar, losing his own family. Too many goodbyes. Getting back to the point, he sees no need to stay tied to painful memories. If she allows it, he wants to act as her older brother. From that moment on, his sincere words move the young woman, and she gladly accepts the offer, beginning to rely on her new brother. Now it is time to continue the tour they had mentioned. She notes the locations of several rooms as they walk. He arrives at the armory and sees shelves filled with dozens of heavy firearms. He did not expect a station in the slums to be so heavily armed. Naturally, he would not have known. Gray market factions pay large tributes to the station every year. This is used to help officers maintain control over everything. That makes sense to him. At that moment, their conversation is interrupted by loud laughter coming from a nearby room. He asks why it is so noisy and is told that it is his team. The new captain is surprised. An ace of spades is tossed onto a pile of cards. As Roland and Joe watch from outside, Jin asks Median if the newcomer will really surpass them. The vice captain responds as if he has already accepted the situation, but the two subordinates playing with him urge him to give his all, insisting they are loyal only to him. Continuing the game, he says there is no need to panic, as the director already knows about the situation. The room grows silent and tense. After working for so many years and earning every merit, he believed the position could only be his. Once again, they declare their loyalty to him. Jing flicks his cigarette aside and is surprised to see it land near a pair of unfamiliar boots. As he slowly lifts his gaze, he sees the new captain staring at him. The sight makes him stand and prepare to salute, but he restrains himself when he notices the vice he is loyal to is still seated. With the atmosphere turning strange, Median casually removes his feet from the table and stands up. Beginning to clap, he loudly welcomes the new leader of the squad. Roland remains silent, simply observing. Then the veteran invites the rest of the team to do the same and applaud. It is clearly a power move by the vice captain. Of course, subtle as a brick. He pretends that is not his intention. Used to situations like this, the human spy plays along and calls out Cora, mentioning his low salary and family responsibilities. Even after working for 5 years, the officer falls silent, surprised, but Roland continues and does the same with the other officers who earn even more. With the entire room frozen, Roland promises to feed his allies and ruthlessly crush all his enemies. Jiu is impressed by his attitude. Meanwhile, the officers, confronted with reality, hesitate about what to do. Cora turns to Machian, hoping for some reassurance, but Roland does not allow it and demands an answer. At last, the supposedly loyal officer bows to the vice in apology and then walks toward the new captain. It is a bold move, making it clear that following the wrong person can be deadly. He asks the rest of the squad what they intend to do. The others quickly follow his lead. Unable to face them, Machian's fists tremble with anger, but he composes himself and accepts it for now. Eager to see what happens next, he leaves the room with a furrowed brow. As the rookie smiles, Jing says she finally understands why Bailing gave those orders. That makes him wonder what she meant. She then reveals that she was ordered to protect him from any danger. He doubts that someone so small could manage that, but she confidently replies that he will understand in time. Cora then cautiously calls out to the captain. With uneasy expressions, they place themselves under his command. He promises that their judgment will be properly rewarded. For now, he wants to learn more about Manian from those who have worked with him. His backer is Hyson, the deputy director of the entire office. As for his background, he is the second eldest among the infamous 3 King brothers. They seem to hold great power and influence. Even so, they risk their lives by choosing to side with the rookie. A clash between major forces has pushed them to seek someone to rely on. Roland asks why they are choosing to rely on him. They begin by pointing to the emblem on his shoulder. Madian should have become captain after Hyson stepped down, but the position remained vacant for a year, reserved for someone chosen by the Shinichi family. Many competed for the role, but a single word from the clan decided everything. That says a lot about his strength and connections, which are all that matter in their district. In other words, they will not hesitate to betray him if he loses his value. So he must ensure he never falls from his position. In the deputy director's office, Matian stands bowed in silence and is told to stop wearing that marked expression. He complains about the position that was promised to him long ago. The word promised makes the man scoff as he turns his chair. The imposing figure stares at him and says he does not recall making such a promise. Feeling lost, Matian meets his gaze with a frustrated expression. Hearing the tapping on the desk, he asks if they are really going to let the rookie take the position. Unfortunately, the decision of the King clan is not something they can oppose. It is hard to accept, but now victory depends on bringing Roland to their side. The vice captain dislikes the idea of recruiting an enemy, but it is worse not to try to align someone connected to the Fox clan. He argues that the noble family is not on the same side as the nine-headed bird faction. Hyson already knows this, and that is exactly why they need to pull him into this conflict. Understanding this, Madian remains bowed obediently before his superior. In the middle of the city, Roland and Ju stand in front of a shabby house, which is now his new home. He struggles to call it decent while glancing at the rats nearby. Yada de relic luxury living Cold City edition. Unfortunately, it is the only option within the amount he is willing to spend. She even checks several places trying to meet his standards, but wonders why someone with a captain's salary would budget so little for rent. For him, life is tough, and there is much to save. Later, he hands a bundle of money to the human spy at the restaurant and asks him to deposit it into an account in the immortal Martial Nation. After that, he goes to a public phone and calls the director of the foundation, saying he has sent money to keep things running. She asks worriedly where he is since he left without notice, and he says it is not easy to explain. Roland simply assures her that he is safe but falls silent when she asks when he will return to his brothers. After a pause, he promises to come back soon and hangs up. As he walks away with a serious expression, he runs into Jing, who asks what happened. He brushes it off and continues on to check his new home. In the martial realm, Muyan stands at the center of a massive platform. Her superior asks about her plans, as the committee wants to see results soon. She assures him she is not the type to fail, and impatiently he insists that the spy she deployed must prove his worth. In fact, he must find a way to obtain the same structural maps of Kingi City, especially the coastal map, which is essential for the next operation. This makes her question what exactly they intend to do. Since demons have caused many problems in their territory before, the office has decided it is time to retaliate. Roland is stunned when he receives the order to obtain the coastal defense map. He has just arrived and was not supposed to be activated so soon. Mingyan calmly says there is no avoiding it. The committee does not trust her plan, so they need results to silence them. Unfortunately, she has no time for excuses and reminds him of the consequences of failure. With no alternative, he slams the phone down and curses his boss as a wretch. Furious, he punches the phone and storms off, desperate to come up with something before the deadline. Even with the booth completely wrecked, Muyan simply smiles at her furious subordinate, looking at the office's symbol and saying she will not be suppressed forever. At the patrol division headquarters, the deputy director finally meets the new captain of the first squad. Roland politely says he should have visited earlier, but the man says he does not like formalities and actually appreciates young talent like him. The rookie argues that he is prone to mistakes and even recently clashed with Ma Tian. That is nothing new to the deputy, so they both treat it as a simple disagreement between colleagues, and promising to put the vice to work properly from now on. Hyson adds that there is a case he would like the captain to handle. He accepts the assignment willingly. They have identified a storage point for illegal medicine, a warehouse near the river. His job is to take it down immediately. Although it is a heavy but swift order, Roland obeys and salutes his superior. Jo sits quietly in the corner of the team room while the members watch her with malicious looks. Cora makes a vulgar remark about her and is warned that she might hear, but he believes she is nothing more than the captain's pampered pet. He notices she is staring directly at him and begins to stutter when the girl, with strangely empty eyes, asks if he is talking about her. His posture changes completely when she tells him to watch his mouth, and he feels a strong gust pass through his body. At that moment, Roland enters and announces they have a new mission. Jo quickly stands up, excited to finally have something to do, and wonders what kind of mission it is as she follows the captain. Still in shock, Cora stands up, and suddenly his coffee cup shatters out of nowhere. The others exclaim, realizing it was the girl, and quickly follow their superior, not wanting to keep him waiting. He stands there looking at his stained clothes in embarrassment. Back at the Kingi clan residence, Bailing cries openly in front of the great ancestor, clearly wanting her to take action. Dan asks what the girl has been doing, and she replies that staying home all day feels suffocating. Her two friends were out on patrol, and she had nothing else to occupy herself with. Even so, she was the one who sent Juby to protect Roland, but now she regrets not going herself. She imagines the two of them growing closer and developing feelings because of their time together. A bit surprised, Dan asks if she has really fallen for the boy, noticing her blushing. Bailing denies it outright, but firmly protests when the ancestor suggests pairing Roland with Ju. Caught in her own contradiction, she ends up only asking whether he would even like someone like her. Her lack of confidence is not something a daughter of the Kinkwai clan should show as a top-tier warrior. If she likes someone, she should be brave and go after him. No matter what, that will give her the certainty she needs. The old woman realizes that this time she is serious. She has met many talented men before, but never reacted like this. Long concludes that the seemingly mysterious young man is different from the others. He is not rude, not flattering, and not distant, and being with him simply feels natural. The girl has truly fallen in love. Unfortunately, Roland's background is far too humble for their clan. Although that does not matter to her, the opinions of others carry weight. In the end, what truly matters is her father's stance on the matter. She tries to argue at first, but soon falls silent. As the clan leader, their future depends entirely on him. Trembling with frustration, she says she does not want to end up in a joyless marriage like her sister. Her feelings are hers to decide. With a determined look, she leaves and crosses the courtyard. She encounters Lian, who seems to have been waiting for her. Surprised, she asks if something happened, and he replies that the clan leader wants to see her. It is not something she wishes to do, but she has no choice but to answer the call. Standing before Alo's chamber, the butler announces her arrival. She is allowed inside and is immediately faced with an imposing symbol that demands solemnity. Long ago, Bailing had knelt silently before a sacred fire, mourning and softly calling out to her recently deceased sister. The memorial tablet stood there as the young girl blamed her father for forcing her into an arranged marriage. At that moment, the doors opened, breaking the silence. She turns her head and meets her father's gaze as he looks back at her. Turning away, Alo steps forward, not bothering to close the door, and lights incense, raising it near his head. Refusing to look at him, she says there is no need to pretend. He places the incense before the tablet and argues that he lost a daughter, just as she lost a sister. That anarches her. She shouts that he has no right to speak about it. After all, her sister died after he sacrificed her for the sake of the family. He looks at her with regret and sighs heavily. Looking again at the tablet, he states that it was simply her fate, something Bailing cannot believe she just heard. Even so, he repeats that it was her destiny. As someone born into that family, she demands to know who decided such a cruel and absurd fate for her. Her sister always obeyed, never able to choose for herself, and that is how it ended. Oak strikes his daughter so hard that she falls to the ground and reveals that it was not him who pushed her into hell, but Bailing herself. Confused and furious, she rises to her feet. Then he reveals that originally she was the one meant for the arranged marriage, but her sister took her place because of her. Tears begin to fall as she hears this, and she remembers her older sister embracing her with a smile, telling her to live her own life. The young woman cannot stop crying as she thinks of her. Soon she is sobbing uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Ali says it is time for her to finish what was started. The statement is outrageous, but he is determined to do whatever is necessary for the clan, even if it means sacrificing another daughter. Yes, Father of the Year, absolutely not. Muling stands outside her father's chambers with a cold expression, strengthening her resolve. She opens the door and enters, the two facing each other. Muling closes the door with a deep bow. As their intense gazes meet, he states that his daughter has truly returned. She left and joined the Corps for 3 years, disappearing without saying anything. Even so, she sees nothing wrong with what she did and refuses to be his tool. The clan leader cannot believe what he is hearing. Then the young woman questions whether his words are false. He insists she should have understood her duty as a member of the clan. Instead, she fled to the human nation to carry out missions and ended up being captured. Anything she might have said there could have dragged them all down with her. She tells him to calm down, assuring him she revealed nothing. Now that she has returned, her father begins to form new ideas, but she cuts him off and swears she will kill anyone he tries to marry her to. He is enraged by her defiance. Surprisingly, he calms himself and asks what her plans are for her future. As soon as she says she intends to join the troops at the West Gate, he immediately realizes she wants to get closer to the young man she brought. Bailing openly admits that he is correct. In any case, he is using Roland to stir trouble and create an opportunity to intervene. But they still have not discovered who the true supplier is. Luge is surprised that she knows this, but the young woman confidently claims she knows far more. 5 years ago, his attack on the district failed, and neither he nor the Long clan achieved what they wanted. Even so, all of that resulted in the death of her sister and countless members of the demon race. Meanwhile, those responsible walked away unharmed. He remains silent in the face of the accusations. Then she asks to be sent there. Perhaps that way she can finish what he could not. The clan leader asks if she truly understands what they are trying to do. Bailing says that she does. They intend to eliminate illegal drugs and control the population by monopolizing pharmaceutical products. After some quick calculations, she says it has been nearly 100 years since they lost control. To be precise, it has been 103 years and 4 months since the Fox King was defeated and contained by the Lord of 10,000 Demons. Since then, Quincy City has ceased to be the sacred city of the clan. It is maddening to think about how much time has passed. With a deep sigh, the clan leader shows anger and determination to reclaim the glory that belongs to them. Bailing already knew her father's goal, but he is more determined than she expected. Ah Hiao says that eventually she will learn his plan, but not yet. He then approves her request to join the Westgate defense troops. The young woman turns to leave, but is stopped by her father. When she asks if there are any more orders, he tells her to stay away from Rocham, as what is about to happen is beyond her control. She asks flatly if that is his way of showing concern, but he only growls and orders her to leave at once. Later on, Malling arrives at the base of the Western Gate defense troops. The soldiers are gathered together in neat formation. They are being called forward to meet the newly appointed commander of the 3rd Battalion. The deputy commander orders everyone to give an enthusiastic round of applause, yet the troops still struggle to accept being led by a woman. Shizzy feels the same and thinks he nearly wet himself from the tension. Yeah, bro is not ready for this. However, Bailing simply scans the crowd before shifting her gaze toward the deputy commander. She understands immediately that this is some kind of initiation stunt. The 3rd Battalion is filled with troublemakers who have already scared off previous leaders. Unfortunately for them, that trick will not work on her. She states that she has spoken enough and prefers to settle matters in a direct way. Then she points at the deputy commander, leaving him confused about what she intends. Bailing challenges him to a fight and declares that she will leave if she loses. If she wins, everyone must follow her orders without question. He shakes his head, trying to discourage her, saying he cannot bear the consequences of hurting someone with such small limbs. There would be no honor in defeating a mere woman. She mocks him openly and calls him a coward. Since he refuses to act, she moves first and tells him not to blame her. He is stunned by her speed, and even more when a strike forces him to stumble backward. Although he does not fall, his face is injured, and the subordinates are shocked that she managed to land a hit. They shout for him not to lose to a woman. Breathing heavily, Zizi yells, asking if the newcomer has lost her mind. Bailing laughs and asks if he thought she was joking. If he does not take the fight seriously, he might actually die. Consumed by anger, he prepares himself to fight properly. The deputy commander rushes forward at high speed, declaring he will no longer hold back. Meanwhile, inside the patrol division's vice director office, Hyson looks into the distance while Matian asks if he truly intends to let Roland handle the operation against illegal drugs. Tired of the questioning, Hyson does not even look at him and tells him to use his brain more. They have dealt with traffickers for years and have not achieved satisfactory results. There is a hidden supplier controlling everything, and they must capture this figure to dismantle the entire operation. That is why Roland was sent to the extraction point. Matian is surprised, realizing that means they already have a lead. The infiltrated informant has finally approached the core of the organization and reported the meeting location with the leader. The deputy asks why he was not sent instead of the boy and is told that someone of his importance should not take such high risks. Flattered, he changes his attitude and asks what the next step will be. They will gather a large force and completely surround the location. Meanwhile, the battle in the 3rd Battalion continues. Seeing his opponent constantly dodging, Zizi mocks her, asking if she plans to keep hopping around like a rabbit. Bailing replies that she might be the most dangerous rabbit he has ever seen and advises him to keep up if he wants to survive. He unleashes a flurry of claw strikes, but Bailing blocks everything with her 9 thick tails. When she spreads them, she reveals herself completely unharmed, leaving him stunned that he could not even scratch her. Yeah, that defense stat is maxed out. She asks if he is finished showing off, and if that is all he has, then declares it is her turn. He becomes furious, refusing to lose to a female demon. The crowd yells for him to finish her quickly. With a fierce roar, he charges and throws a punch aimed at her head, but Bailing evades flawlessly and counters with a palm strike to his chest. It does not look powerful, yet the impact strikes directly at his heart, nearly stopping it. He collapses unconscious instantly. Bailing lifts him with one arm and displays him to everyone. The soldiers cannot believe he was defeated so easily. Smiling, Bailing asks if anyone else wants to challenge her. When no one responds, she laughs and asks if they have all become afraid. After exchanging glances, the men kneel and swear absolute loyalty to their commander. Satisfied, she says it is an honor to work with them and turns to the deputy commander, telling him he can wake up now. Even with his eyes closed, his body trembles, revealing he had been pretending. With no toined alongside the others and asks if he may surrender, he fully submits and promises complete obedience. As she orders him to stand, the great bell in the tower begins ringing non-stop. Still new to the place, Bailing asks what that sound means. It is the command signal of a large battalion, indicating a mission. A messenger arrives with orders for them to gear up and assist in suppressing rebels. She suspects something about the mission, but there are no details, only the order to cooperate with the patrol office. Upon hearing this, she smiles. Meanwhile, Dro urges everyone to hurry, saying delays are punished by death, no pressure at all. Bailing says she will understand once they arrive, though she wonders if it is connected to Roland. She then orders everyone to prepare and move out, and they obey immediately. At the same time, the first squad of the patrol division rushes through the streets. In the back, Dro asks if it is very hot, confused by how much the others are sweating. They grow even more nervous upon seeing the beautiful officer. Roland tells her to stop teasing them. He starts a conversation about their personal lives. One of them has 2 children, the younger being a girl. He calls him lucky, and another begins praising his daughter. They say they have worked hard, hoping for better days. All they want is for their children to grow up safely. The captain asks about another officer's father, whose leg suffers intense pain in the cold. Fortunately, the situation has improved since Roland raised their salaries. Now they can even feel a sense of pride. Roland finds it strange that they struggled so much even while serving under Machian. They fall silent. Then Cora reveals they had to pay a fee to the vice captain. Roland is shocked. It was essentially a monthly protection payment. Even though they were treated like property, they still had to hand over part of their wages. The revelation catches Roland completely off guard. Inside the vehicle, the atmosphere turns tense. He asks how much they had to pay. It varied, but Korra gave half of his salary, while others paid up to 70%. Everyone is stunned. The new captain cannot believe it and asks why they accepted such conditions. They say they had no choice, as joining the force was a rare opportunity. Disobedience could mean dying in the streets without work. They had difficult lives until recently, which is why they are deeply grateful to the new captain. Roland freed them from Matian's oppression and even increased their wages without demanding anything in return. Now they are willing to give their lives for him out of loyalty and gratitude. Roland feels satisfied hearing that. He says they are approaching their destination, near the old industrial district. Concerned about the use of firearms, Korra asks what the mission is and learns it is an arrest operation. Not fully understanding, he compares it to the earlier case involving the boy. Remembering that, Roland asks what happened to the child. The officer's expression turns sorrowful. They captured him and put him through torture, yet failed to extract anything of value. When the boy finally passed out from the overwhelming pain, Matian issued a command, demanding an explanation of what had happened. The captain is told that the boy had been buried while still unconscious, but alive. Even Ju reacts upon hearing about such brutal treatment. The entire vehicle falls silent, weighed down by guilt. When the officers are asked whether all of them took part in it, Korra eventually confirms that they did. She curses them, disgusted by their cowardice. They couldn't afford to worry about it or act bravely, knowing they would be the ones buried if they disobeyed. Letting out a frustrated sigh, Ronald makes a silent vow to bring Monian down. He tells the men to keep driving and to wake him once they arrive. They continue along the road until they reach a large warehouse district near the docks. They wake the captain as instructed, but he is confused about why they are there. Kai connects to the coastal defense system, but it has clearly been abandoned for quite some time. With direct access to open waters, it is the perfect location for smuggling. They are ordered to park discreetly and gather their equipment, as the investigation is about to begin. Positioned in a concealed spot, the patrol division officers move out with firearms in hand, advancing slowly and carefully to avoid detection. They spot an enemy guard who looks bored out of his mind during the uneventful shift. Yeah, worst last day on the job. With swift precision, Ronald grabs his head and snaps it to the side. He drops to the ground without a sound, and the captain signals for his subordinates to proceed. Fortunately, they are skilled enough to replicate the same move, eliminating enemies quietly one by one. At the entrance, a larger group of guards appears. The others are instructed to hold their position for now. If they act too soon, they would alert too many enemies. When asked what to do next, Roland remains silent, studying the area until his gaze locks onto an industrial crane. An idea sparks, and minutes later they are positioned high atop the crane overlooking the main warehouse. Although it is a serious operation, Ju cannot help but sigh in admiration at the stunning view. She responds playfully when scolded for losing focus. Taking the lead, he carefully descends and lands on the rooftop, with the others following shortly after. Thankfully, they remain undetected. As for the next move, he scans the area and finds a door leading inside. He orders Korra to go down, but they soon realize the door is locked and won't budge. It is perfect for him. Roland steps forward to handle it. He pulls out his lock-picking tool, the same one used during the prison escape. It doesn't take long for the door to open. As he announces it, the officers are surprised to witness his skill for the first time. They are in the right place, observing from above as the targets converse below. The man reports that the department has intensified its crackdown on their illegal operations. They have already lost many couriers in just a few days. A massive figure listens to the report and states that a final clash between the two sides must be approaching. Korra wonders if that man is their leader, which seems very likely. Even so, Roland is not entirely certain about his exact position. This could be the perfect moment to strike, given the limited number of enemies. Besides, it is too late to call for reinforcements, as the targets will be gone by the time they arrive. The captain calls the men and orders them to prepare for a surprise attack. Meanwhile, Jeff will head to the back entrance to block any escape route. He protests, reminding them that his orders were to protect the captain at all costs. Roland insists he does not need protection, while acknowledging her strength. Thus, her mission is to ensure no one escapes. His sincere words move her. Motivated by Roland's trust, just salutes and follows the order. Down below, a subordinate questions whether they are truly going to start a war with the department at such a bad time. If both sides simply stayed out of each other's affairs, things wouldn't be so terrible. This angers Greg, who stands up and stares down at the subordinate, now trembling. He lowers himself to his level, revealing the scars that run across his body. The department did that to him, and even attempting negotiation would only lead to death. Understanding the situation, the subordinate raises his hand in surrender and asks what they should do next. He is ordered to notify all the major traffickers. Greg wants to plunge Rim into chaos. It will be like 5 years ago, but this time they will control everything. When no one is watching, they will kill Hizen and any forces that support him. After confirming the order, the subordinate salutes and runs off, but several cylinders suddenly appear at the entrance. He freezes upon seeing the smoke bombs. Moments later, the warehouse fills with thick smoke as more cylinders are dropped from above. It is a full-scale ambush. The subordinate tries to use his radio to call his boss, but a bullet pierces through his head. He collapses lifelessly as Roland emerges, gun in hand. Time is limited, so their priority is to eliminate the commander first. Understanding this, the officers push forward through the smoke, searching for the target. The amount of drugs scattered around is absurd. Distracted, one of them fails to notice the figure behind him. Rookie mistake. He turns and raises his weapon, but no one is there. As he questions whether he is hallucinating, a massive hand suddenly appears from the side, heading straight for his head. The officer reacts and shouts, warning the captain that he is under attack. Greg grabs the barrel of the gun and bends it with sheer brute force, striking with his elbow and throwing the officer into nearby crates. He loses his communicator and contact with the team. He can still hear Roland's voice asking for his location, until the enemy crushes the device underfoot. Now he is completely defenseless against the giant's strength. Greg charges forward to attack, and the others finally hear a scream echoing through the smoke. They turn toward the sound and two are ordered to move in. Hesitant but trusting the captain, they obey. Just still outside offers support, but she is ordered to hold her position and prevent any escape. Understanding, she remains at the entrance, having already taken down several enemies attempting to flee. Roland continues advancing, trying to force the target toward the back exit. As he confirms the plan, he hears rapid footsteps approaching. Greg is coming straight at them. Like an enraged bull, he charges at the nearest officer, who can only scream before taking a devastating punch to the face. Just like the previous one, his face is completely shattered as he is thrown across the ground. Before things get worse, Cora appears, aiming her weapon and ordering the enemy not to move. Greg raises his hands, pretending to surrender, and the officer informs the captain that the target has been captured. At the same time, Roland stands in front, also aiming his weapon. While praising his subordinate, the criminal notices the insignia on his uniform and realizes he is dealing with the patrol department. He asks how they managed to find this place, but receives no answer, instead being questioned whether he is the leader of the operation. Greg practically confirms it, and asks if Hasten couldn't wait to move against him. The mention of the vice director catches the captain off guard. The truth comes to light when Greg reveals that he only reached his current position thanks to the director's support. He is left stunned. Hasten is involved in the entire trafficking network. Greg explains that this is only natural, since the operation would never survive without backing from the department. Likewise, the vice director would never have climbed to his position without drug money funding his rise. But why would he want to eliminate the very man who controls the operation? In reality, their mission there is to eliminate Haisen, and there is no one else. With his death, the Kin Kwai clan will lose its influence over Riemann. Greg steps forward, and Cora, with determination, threatens to shoot if he makes another move, but he does not care. The captain had been led to believe he was the hunter in this situation, when in truth he was the lamb waiting to be slaughtered without even realizing it. The criminal suddenly vanishes from where he stood. Before anyone can react, he reappears behind Cora. She is warned to move, but it is already too late to fully defend herself. She manages to raise her weapon to lessen the impact, yet she is still thrown violently against the walls. Ro opens fire at the enemy, who moves at incredible speed, dodging while steadily closing the distance. Once he gets close enough, his fingers morph into claws that slice through the weapons held by the officers. Their eyes widen in shock. Now he makes it clear that they were sent there only to die foolishly. Greg strikes with such force that the ground beneath them collapses. To his surprise, no one is there. Haisen managed to retreat without a single scratch. He asks what will happen if he fails to kill him, assuring that such a thing will not occur. The enemy conjures a glowing sphere of energy and lets out a manic scream as he fires a demonic beam toward the captain. With unwavering focus, he evades and runs along the wall, creating enough distance to circle around his target. Thinking he is nothing more than another pawn, the human begins to tap into his own demonic abilities as well. He attacks, but his strike collides with the criminal's hardened arm. After successfully blocking, Greg seizes the opening and fires a beam of energy from his eyes, striking the enemy directly in the face. With his head engulfed in flames, Rian is thrown backward. He remains on the ground for a moment. His opponent vows revenge, declaring that he will kill Hasten sooner or later. Although the fight seemed to be over, the human shuts his eyes tightly and begins to glow with a golden light. His eyes open, shining intensely, as his body lifts into the air, overflowing with a familiar yet strange energy. Greg recognizes it as a technique of the human clan, but he has no idea how a demon is capable of using it. Roland's body radiates and burns with what appears to be divine power. With a loud battle cry, he unleashes even more of his strength, nearly blinding the enemy with his aura alone. Now he is ready to fight on equal footing. The captain asks the criminal whether the deal offered by Haisen is truly worth dying for. Greg simply smiles back, making it clear he is not easily intimidated. As for the question, the answer will depend on how strong the officer truly is. A series of kicks sends multiple hardened stones flying forward. He watches carefully, waiting for the right moment. Roland deflects them all with a single hand, almost effortlessly. The enemy tries again with the stones, this time gathering them together into a massive boulder. He hurls it at the human, who is ready to demonstrate one of his clan's fist techniques. By combining the durability of his demonic body with human martial techniques, his power increases even further. As before, energy seems to overflow from his body. Taking on the strength of a fierce beast, he charges forward to meet the incoming rock. At first, nothing seems to happen as they barely make contact, but then the massive boulder halts and shatters into countless fragments. Greg stares at Roland as the debris flies toward him. He has just witnessed the Tiger Fist, one of the 12 forms. He never expected to see a member of the demonic clan using a technique that belongs to humans. Because of that, he changes his mind and decides to capture him in order to study him thoroughly. The two exchange provoking looks as the battle continues. Now it is Greg's turn to teach him a lesson. he slowly begins to alter his form into something terrifying. A tail emerges, sharp claws extend, and rigid red scales start covering his body. He is transforming into a demon. Now as a completely different being, he tells Roland to come at him with everything he has. His true form radiates an overwhelming killing intent. Yeah, boss fight just entered phase 2. Suddenly, the demon's head jerks to the side from an unexpected gunshot. Both are startled and turn to see Korra holding a smoking weapon. Furious at the unwanted interruption, Greg glares at Korra and charges toward her. To his surprise, Roland easily matches his speed and intercepts him. Before he can reach the subordinate determined to protect him, the captain kicks the enemy, stopping his advance. As they separate momentarily, the demon gains an opportunity to prepare another attack. The patrol members watch closely, waiting for his next move, when the enemy suddenly unleashes a burst of blazing fire toward them. It is an unexpected power, but Roland reacts quickly, assuming his wolf form to counter it. Facing the flames, he takes a deep breath and releases a powerful howl that pushes them back and extinguishes the fire. His opponent is surprised that he managed to withstand such power. Now it is time to test the strength of the boy's body. He rushes forward, throwing a punch followed by a sideways elbow strike. Both attacks are dodged with relative ease, but they were merely distractions, allowing Greg's tail to wrap around his leg unnoticed. The appendage snaps tight and hurls him against the warehouse walls, while Roland rises, complaining about the sneaky move. The demon is already above him, ready to strike. Driven by irritation, the wolfman raises his arms and growls, saying it is time to demonstrate an ancient fist technique. He dodges and brings together two curved fingers, quickly striking a precise point on the target. Before the enemy can react, he moves behind Greg and, clenching his fist, delivers 6 exact blows to his body. As he leaps back, the massive demon turns and mocks the light punches, which barely scratched his scales. Roland watches, breathing heavily and clearly exhausted, while the criminal boasts that he wasted a golden opportunity. Then Greg's body suddenly trembles, and the strikes finally hit his pressure points with full force. Soon he begins to convulse violently, questioning what the officer has done to him. It is nothing too extraordinary. He simply pressed a few acupuncture points. Greg does not fully grasp what the enemy is saying, so Roland explains directly that he struck something crucial on his back, and that the effects will soon take hold. The demon was doubtful at first, but the words proved true, and he suddenly began twisting in agony, screaming in pain. Now he struggled to breathe, his back covered in open wounds. It must have been unbearable, considering his meridians had already ruptured. Even so, it did not compare to the painful memory tied to the scar on his face. Recalling those intense flames, he stood back up and demanded to see what else his opponent could do. That said, he knew he could die if he took another hit to a vital point. Roland crouched low and vanished from sight. In the blink of an eye, he struck from behind, but Greg predicted it and dodged perfectly, countering with a heavy swing of his tail. He managed to block just in time by raising his arms, but that left his body exposed to a powerful, direct punch. The impact knocked the air out of his lungs and sent him skidding across the ground. Roland was losing and had only one strike left. Greg's endurance was absurd. He kept moving forward despite the obvious injuries covering his body. As if to further demonstrate his power, he grabbed his own arm and tore it off with a loud roar. Yeah, that escalated quickly. Roland could not believe the absurd sight of the demon opening his mouth and biting into his own severed limb. This allowed him to recover from his other injuries and restore his stamina. Now he felt even better than he had at the start of the fight. With astonishing speed, he disappeared and reappeared beside Roland, delivering a devastating uppercut straight to his abdomen. Greg launched him high into the air and leaped up to meet him, raising his remaining arm before slamming him down with such force that the patrol captain shattered the ground upon impact. The demon looked down at the weakened enemy, groaning in pain, stating that he had failed and could not land one more strike. It was over. All that remained to complete his mission was to kill the arrogant young man. At that moment, Greg suddenly found himself restrained, his limbs weighed down as 3 patrol subordinates clung to him with all their strength. Their captain was barely conscious, so Korra called out to him while holding the enemy, urging him to wake up. The others echoed her plea, risking their lives by doing so. Even then, Roland could not move a single muscle. On the other hand, Greg frowned at the weak attempt to stop him. He kicked the first one away with almost no effort. Then he unleashed a concentrated burst of flames that pierced through the man's body, incinerating bone and flesh. The sight of their fallen comrade brought tears to the captain's eyes, especially when the man used his final words to thank his superior. Korra cursed the wretched demon and raised her fist to strike, but she turned pale and began to sweat upon meeting the enemy's merciless gaze. Greg grabbed her head with one hand and began to squeeze harder and harder until her skull could no longer withstand the pressure. Once again, the patrol team screamed and cried out. The last remaining officer trembled in fear as he clung to the demon, who smiled upon sensing the true terror in his bones. He ran as fast as he could to escape, but stopped abruptly after a massive hole was blasted through his body, and just like that, the 3 of them were gone. Roland trembled with rage. At last, that fury was enough to push him back onto his feet. Despite his injuries, he swore to kill the criminal who had murdered his comrades, but Greg could say the same about him. He was the only one who still had enough strength left to advance. On the other hand, the captain was ready to gamble everything on his single remaining chance. The red demon's claws pierced through his chest, lifting him into the air. It was not an attack he could avoid, but it was also not one he intended to evade. Roland had him exactly where he wanted him. His body began to shine once more, confusing the enemy. He was about to release all his energy, and that strike would not be able to withstand it. A blinding flash engulfed the entire warehouse, and even Ju was shocked by the explosion that came from within. She turned and saw the entire place reduced to ruins. Walking through the wreckage, she called out for Roland. Suddenly she spotted a red figure standing amid the thick smoke. It was Greg, barely remaining alive after taking the full force of the attack. The captain lay on the ground trembling, yet still managed to order her to capture the criminal immediately. However, Drea remained frozen. Her eyes met Greg's, and for some reason both were overtaken by an uncontrollable wave of tears. They stared at each other, crying yet completely silent. Greg's eyes filled with tears as he recognized the person standing before him. Drea also trembled, barely able to hold back her own tears. Roland shouted at her, demanding to know why she was not acting, but she simply could not move. She remained paralyzed until suddenly the ceiling exploded and soldiers dropped in from above. Before anyone could react, the demon was surrounded by military forces. When the wall was also blown apart, everyone turned to see who had arrived. Two familiar figures appeared. It was Zizi and Belling, smiling at the intriguing scene before them. Looking at Greg, Belling finally identified the illegal mastermind behind everything. The demon looked at her and said he did not wish to be her enemy, but she simply confirmed whether he was truly the one behind it all. Satisfied with the answer, she decided he would be coming with her. He refused, stating that he had more important matters to attend to. Realizing he would not yield easily, she moved with speed and power far beyond Roland's. With a single punch, he was sent flying, rolling across the ground, groaning as he struggled to open his eyes. He then saw several blades hovering near his face. Around him, a group of soldiers aimed their spears directly at him. Belling had no patience to deal with the criminal and ordered her men to take him away immediately. However, Ji called out to her companion with a worried expression. The young woman looked confused and asked what was wrong, but the assistant bit her tongue and stayed silent. After learning that Roland was also fine despite the battle, Belling asked if this counted as a hero saving a damsel in distress. When he offered to devote himself to her in return, she blushed in surprise and walked away, saying she had no interest in keeping dogs. Even so, she hid a smile as she left, not hearing him insist that he was a wolf, not a dog. Meanwhile, Jo stared ahead, wondering what she should do. Greg walked obediently, escorted by the soldiers, and glanced back to meet her gaze. He told her not to worry about him, which only made her cry even more. Seeing this, Roland surprised her by asking what was going on, and whether she happened to know the criminal being taken away. Jo turned away, denying it and saying he was overthinking, but he could not shake the feeling that she was hiding something. The bodies of the three fallen officers were arranged in a grotesque line, and Roland could only stare at them with a dark expression. Others arrived to cover the bodies and carry them out of the warehouse. When one arm slipped and hung off the stretcher, Hasten told them to wait. Holding it firmly, he promised to take care of the families they left behind and made sure they would receive a proper burial. The captain watched in silence, but the vice director turned to him and asked if he was all right, even moving his body to check for injuries. Saying that he had only sustained minor injuries, he assures them he will recover after some rest. Since they cannot afford to lose such a capable subordinate, Hasten promises to take him to be treated by his personal doctor. The young captain is invited to return to the city in his car. When he looks toward the vehicle, he notices a large man standing at attention and asks who he is. It is Scarface, a trusted bodyguard who has been by his side for years. Unwilling to get into a car with unfamiliar people, he decides to ride with his own team instead. With that, they part ways for the time being. Ju appears and calls her captain over to their vehicle. Upon seeing her for the first time, he feels that she looks strangely familiar. She gives a brief and dry introduction before taking the passenger seat, clearly trying to end the conversation quickly. With both of them inside the truck, they drive off without another word, completely ignoring the vice director, who waves and tells them to be careful. Meanwhile, Rian continues thinking about Gio, wearing a dark and unsettling expression. On the road, Roland groans and makes pained expressions, clearly suffering from the aftermath of the battle. He nearly throws up everything, causing his assistant to shout in shock and concern. Having exhausted all his energy, he needs to rest and recover as soon as possible, but the vice director will not allow that so easily. His words suggest that Hyson had been trying to kill him. With that, he reveals that Hyson is actually the mastermind behind the illegal drug trade. As long as Roland remains alive, he will continue attempting to eliminate him. Just as he said, several cars begin to follow their vehicle, surrounding them from both sides and forcing them to speed up. Inside those cars, masked men prepare to carry out their mission of leaving no survivors. Yeah, definitely not a friendly tale. Ju scans the surroundings as they are cornered by the enemy vehicles. At the Roman patrol department, Ju scans with a cold expression on her face. Distinct sounds echo from the interrogation room, where Greg hangs from the ceiling, enduring countless lashes from a whip. Despite his injuries, he mocks Manon, who growls in frustration while trying to extract any information from the suspect. He looks down on him for acting arrogantly even at death's door, saying he must be dreaming about escaping. He orders him to reveal the location of the money. To his frustration, the criminal pretends he has no idea what he is talking about. He must think the department knows nothing about him. He had been skimming profits from the black market, converting everything into gold. Now they want to know where he hid all that gold. Greg continues to insist that he has no idea what they are talking about. Just as Manon is about to whip him again, Hyson arrives, ordering him to stop and leave so they can speak in private. The vice asks for more time, eager to get the information, but receives a firm command to leave immediately. With no choice, he obeys, leaving the two alone as planned. The director says he never expected his old friend's face to end up like that, but Greg looks at him with contempt, knowing that this was exactly what he wanted. After all, he was the one who turned him into what he is today, especially with the fire he planned and caused years ago. Hyson insists he never intended to hurt him and only wanted control of the underground market. It is hard to believe the words of a deceiver. The vice sheriff orders him to hand over the gold in exchange for a chance to live. However, Greg refuses to fall for that lie a second time and states that he will not give up a single coin of the gold he gathered. Enraged, Hyson calls for Madian again, who responds in a rather pathetic manner. He is ordered to find out where the gold is and to use any means necessary to do so. The door closes behind him. Soon after, a heated iron is brought toward the restrained suspect. As the officer promises to take very good care of him, all the prison lights suddenly go out, leaving everyone confused. Jiro walks through the dark corridors with weapons in hand, and that is where the story pauses for now. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, boost the video as much as you can, check if the